Hi guys, let's do the bold, emotional, colorful tutorial. That's always really hard for me to say. BEC is what I'm going to call it. Yeah, there's a lot of elements to these photos, guys. It's not just taking a photo and editing it a certain way. There's a lot of layers. It's kind of like a puzzle. So I wrote up a quick little guide what we're going to go over. Client prep is a big deal with with this genre. The colors, that people are wearing, the clothing, the movement in their clothing. So I'll talk about client prep, elements of dynamic images. So, when you look at these photos, you really sort of feel drawn into them. They're conveying an emotion and they're telling a story. So I'll kind of give you some tips on what to look for when you're out shooting, what to keep your eye on. To capture, and then storytelling. Just real quickly, we'll go over how to tell a good story and the elements that go into that, and then finally how to tie it in with editing. And that's really what editing is with these, is tying all of those elements together and bringing out certain things that you've taken your time to photograph. So the first thing I do after I book a client and send them, the booking documents, is I send them a questionnaire. I mostly do couples. I think a lot of you are family photographers, so I don't have a questionnaire for that. But my goal with questionnaires is to get to know them. I just want to get a general idea of who they are. I kind of want to know, I label my clients warm or cool, and that helps me develop a color palette for them. But I want to know if they're warm people or cool people. So cool people are, because color conveys emotion, and this is, tying into that. But cool people are, really calm and kind of chill, relaxed, and warm people are, energetic, really passionate, sort of outgoing people. So, my questionnaires ask things like, from simple questions like just, what's your favorite thing about your partner, to tell me the story of when you got engaged, to who's more introverted, who's the extrovert, things like that. So you can develop your own questionnaires on Honeybook. They have templates, and when you're writing a questionnaire, just think about what do you want to know about them in order to tell their story. And you can get really creative with the questionnaires. I think they're kind of fun to write, and people think that they're fun to fill out too. So that's just, also building your client experience. So do that. And another thing that I ask in my questionnaires is, are there any colors that you don't feel comfortable wearing? Most people say no. People typically don't. But I like to create the color palette for my client if they allow it. Normally they do. I always find that people are just so unsure about what to wear that they will take any and all direction that you give them. So let me show you how I create a color palette. And I base this largely on color theory. I won't go too far into that because it is a lot, but I think I do have a color wheel pulled up here. Yes, I do. So you can use the color wheel to find, there's different color schemes you can do. There's complementary, there's analogous, there's triadic, and then there's one more, the monochromatic. But think about your location too. So send a questionnaire, 1. 2, choose your location so that you can base your wardrobe off the location. And then 3, make your color palette. So think about your location when you're doing this. Think about complementary colors. So let's say that I'm shooting on the beach and I'm going to have a lot of blue in my images from the environment. Let me go right across the color wheel and think about maybe incorporating some of these colors into my wardrobe to create contrast. And you'll find the more we discuss this that contrast is huge with this style of photography. It's really maybe the main element is contrast. So if you can create contrast with your colors, that's a good first step. So maybe if I'm shooting in a field, I'm going to be more on this side with my environment. So let me go across and look at these colors, maybe incorporating one of these colors into my color scheme. So the first thing I do, again, just to recap, is think about my location. Let's pretend for now that we're shooting on a beach.
So here's my environment, and I'm going to pick a complementary color. So I'm going to start with like a rust color in my wardrobe. So let me show you how I create the color palette. You can find these color palette templates in Canva. You just type in literally color palette and they'll bring a bunch of them up. But I label it with a family name, and I will send this to them just via text. I literally just screenshot it and send it to them. The easier the better, I find. So here's my main color, and I chose it by just going into this little color box up here. And you can scroll this up, and if you guys hear my dogs, I'm really sorry. I can't do anything else with them. They live here. So you can go up and down and just choose your first color, and then you're going to build off of this color. So I'm going to choose like a rust color. And then I just build I have two main colors, a neutral, a minor color, and then an accent. So the sizes of these circles kind of shows them where they want most of their color to be, and then where to add in just a little bit of color. So I think that this template is really good for sending and giving your clients a good idea. And just, again, think about color theory with this, but also pick colors that you feel complement the clients' personalities. Again, like I said, I have cool clients and warm clients, and I try to base their their wardrobe around that. Okay, let's see. I've got a list here. Where are we at? Okay, so we've chosen our color palette for our clients, and now let's talk about what creates a dynamic image. There are a few different elements. So we're going to talk about light, texture, tone, and composition. So you get to the location, always read the questionnaire over before you get to the location, so you kind of arrive with ideas in mind of maybe what you can talk about. I think that really helps relax people too, if you can ask them personal questions. And it also really helps you tell their story, kind of, if you have a feeling for who somebody is, I feel like you can capture them, better than if you just met them for the first time and didn't know a thing about them. Okay, so light. Obviously, light's a big one. Everybody knows this. But with these BEC type images, light is everything, you guys. Lighting is going to determine your skin tone, for one. If you have somebody out in really bright, harsh, 2 p.m. light, you're not going to get this soft, even skin tone. And that's what you see in these BEC images, is really soft skin, evenly lit skin. So make sure that you're try to shoot an hour before sunset if you can. If for whatever reason you can't, you're going to have to use your light really creatively, get in some open shade, try to use that sunlight however you can, but just, make it a priority to shoot an hour before sunset. Texture is a big one. Contrast and texture. If, anywhere you can put something textured next to something soft is going to create contrast. And again, contrast is huge with this style. Contrast in light, contrast in texture, contrast in tone, contrast in color. Anywhere you can add contrast into your images, do it. So for example, here we have this lace shawl here against her soft skin, and then this really pretty grass is adding texture, and then you'll see when I edit it, I'm just going to pull the dehaze up so you can see, and then you're going to get texture in the sky, and we'll soften the sky to add texture, contrast and texture from the sky to the grass, so you'll kind of see how that goes. But when you are out on location, think about how you can contrast texture. And then tone. Tone is the difference between light and dark. So here we have this really bright sky, and then we have this darker line of trees here. When you're out in, on location, think about this. Think about having like a really bright element to your photo. And in this case, the sky is just a secondary light source. It looks like maybe the sun is over here. You can kind of tell by the highlights on her face, but have a secondary light source that's going to add contrast and tone in your images.
So anywhere you can, create shadows and highlights, do that. And it'll take a little bit. I know some of the stuff you hear it and you're like, well, how do I do that? Keep these things in mind, and when you're out shooting, think about them and just experiment. See what you can do. And the more you do these, the better you're going to get. If you follow these steps and techniques for, I'm going to say, 6 months and do some shoots in between, you're going to become so good at this, I promise you. And then think about composition too. Composition is a big deal with these photos. They really draw you in, and that's sort of the goal in these images, is to draw you in and make you feel something. And composition can help you tell a story and convey that emotion. So, there's different ways to compose. You can use leading lines. I think everybody kind of knows what that is. If you're on like a curved pathway and you have the people in the center and you have, some of the path in the foreground and then some of it in the background, that's both leading lines and it's creating depth, which is good. And then the rule of thirds. Try to keep, I actually really like a center composed image like this, but try to keep your subjects on one of these lines. Oops, let's get that out of there. Yep, try to keep your focal points on one of these lines or at one of the intersections. So if we had a family sitting here, we'd want to put them maybe right there. You know what I mean? Right in that third quadrant right there. So that's kind of it for what you want to look for when you're out in terms of what makes a dynamic image. Contrast is what you want to, get as much of as you can. And then storytelling. So again, your questionnaires are going to be huge for your storytelling. If you have an idea of who these people are and you kind of feel like you know them, you're going to have a much easier time telling their story. If they're cool clients, if they're, really the calm, chill people, you can kind of compose your images in such a way and, use light in a certain way to, create that. And I promise you, it's enough for now if you just keep these things in mind. You don't have to know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have to, this doesn't all have to click for you right now. I promise it's okay. Just keep these elements in mind and they will come to you as you're shooting. And the more you do it, the easier they will come to you. So, there should be a fourth. Where's this thing? A fifth. Fifth should be practice, because that's really what's going to get you guys where you want to go. I mean, this is a good place to start, but practicing is going to do it. Okay, so storytelling. How can you tell a story? First, anything that makes you feel something as you're shooting and looking is going to make them feel something. It could be, something as simple as, someone smiling at the other person. Capture that. You're capturing emotion. Even if someone's mad, or upset, like some of my favorite pictures are, with family shoots or kids throwing a fit. I mean, they're just adorable, but it tells the story. And parents always love those photos too, as long as it's not all of the photos, but emotion. Look for the emotion, capture the emotion. Another thing with storytelling is details. Sometimes I know it's hard when you get on location and you're like, shoot, where do I even start? If you think that, just start with the details. Start shooting details. It could be somebody holding hands. It could be, sort of like the sun shining through someone's hair and getting some interesting compositions. Just little details. Rings are a big thing. I like to shoot hands a lot. Get in there. Move in, move out, especially if you're on a fixed lens. Always be moving, and ask your clients to move too. Movement is a really great way to tell a story. The more movement in an image, I think the more you look at it and feel like you're there, or feel like, you can imagine what it was like to be there. Movement is a big thing for me. And I also ask my clients to wear skirts or dresses if they're comfortable, because that adds just a lot of movement without any effort. Let's see what else. You can use light to tell a story. So let me go to one of these other images here and show you an example of light telling a story. You see how soft and pretty this light is and how it's sort of shining in on his face. It just feels so sort of calm and peaceful, and that little bit of haze just adds to it, just softens everything around. Use light in this way to help tell the story. I've seen some really cool images, and I don't have any pulled up, but where there will be like, if you're indoors and the sun is coming through a window and creating patterns, and you put the subject in that spot where the pattern, the sun patterns are like over their face, that's an awesome way to help tell a story. Use your light in creative ways. And another cool way you can use light is to, okay, let's take these people for example. I would have them stand still, and I would just tell them to do their thing. I would tell mom to, just look at your baby and love on him or whatever, give him kisses on the cheek. And then I would, I'm pointing at the screen so you can see it. I would move around them and shoot. So where the sun is at, I would maybe get a little bit lower with my camera and get an angle up, and then as you're moving, you can see the sun creating different shapes and different textures, in the frame. So always be moving and using the sunlight as sort of an accessory. Let's see, emotion is a great way to tell a story. Like, prompt your clients with things like say to a child, like, what's your favorite thing about mom? And, just click away, like, just get the reactions. Really, storytelling, you hear the word and it kind of sounds like complicated, like, well, how am I going to do that? It's as simple as capturing the emotion, capturing the details, using your light creatively, using texture, using composition is all a great way to tell a story. And get a variety of shots again. So like, get those details. If I was shooting this, I would zoom right in on his little hands right there. Let me show you. Little details like this add so much to a gallery. Just look at, you've got their smiles up here, his little hands clasped. I would maybe even get down here with his foot. I mean, just different details can make, really help tell the story. So think about your details, think about your wide shots, and balancing them with the details. So I think that's it for storytelling. Let's actually edit one of these. And when you have all of those elements that you've created in camera, from your wardrobe to your light to your texture and your mood and your emotion, editing is just going to be the last final finishing touch to your images. So I am going to use Reverie Oak, and let me fix my exposure first. Pull it down here. Yep, and we're going to focus on creating contrast with color and with light and with texture. So let's put, what am I going to put on it? I'm going to start with O2. And whoops, the next thing I'm going to do is select that sky. And we're going to bring out that sky. Because we can add a lot of texture in the sky. We can add contrast between light and dark. And that's going to be a big deal. So sky is selected. Now we're going to dehaze it. I am going to bring the texture on that sky down. I'm going to bring the clarity down to soften it. And I'm going to bring my saturation up. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. And is that, yeah, that's where I want to leave it. Okay. Now I am going to come in and add some overall contrast with a brush. And I'm going to use the Painterly Bold brush. And I'm going to leave my density at around 50. I'll leave it at 56. I love this brush, but I don't love it when it's way up here. I like it sort of in the middle. And you have to change your density before you start brushing. You can't brush on and then change your density, sadly. Like, it would be really nice if you could. So I'm going to leave that sky alone because I like it, and I'm just going to brush over this part of the image here. Yep, that's beautiful. Okay. Gorgeous. And I'm also going to add some light into this image. We already have our secondary light source back here, but we have a primary light source, and we can see where it's at. It's off to this side because we can see where it's shining. So I'm going to enhance that by making a radial filter, and I'm going to use I think I'm actually just going to use where is it? Pop Whites radial, and I'll adjust it a little bit. But I'm going to add a little bit more light right here, and I'm just going to bump up the exposure just a touch. Yep, and I may add in just a little bit of temp too. Yeah, that's really pretty. Okay, so far what we've done by enhancing the sky is we've created contrast up here with some texture and color up here. We've created with our Painterly Bold brush, and these brushes are free, guys. If you haven't downloaded these yet, I will have a link in the description for you to get them. They're totally free. So we've painted our contrast and our light in over the bottom half of the image, and then we have added in a little bit of contrast with light. Okay, and let's see, I want to add color wherever I can because this is sort of a neutral image, so I'm going to try to pop whatever color I can. So I am going to come in here with a brush, and I am going to just pull the tint up and pull up the saturation a little bit. Excuse me. And I'm going to enhance the color of her lips just a little bit. Yeah. As long as you don't go too crazy with this, you know, I wouldn't want to put like purple lipstick on her, you know what I mean? But as long as you just enhance lightly, people don't typically mind. Okay, and then I'm going to come in and brush her skin. Actually, I think what I want to do is, yeah, let me do this. So I'm going to zoom back out, and I am going to add the light to my subject before I do her skin. So I'm going to take a radial gradient, and I'm going to use the Pop Subject Radial and just pop it right over her. Yeah. Yep, and that's helping to bring the focus to her. It's putting extra light on her. And we will counteract that with some other things at the end, but I'll show you. So this is just a lot of sort of layering. If you have portraiture, you can achieve some of this, you know, sort of with one click. But if you don't have portraiture, just kind of follow along with these steps, and you can get a really similar look. Okay, so now that we have her sort of focused there with the light, I'm going to take another brush and do her skin. And I'm going to leave the density there about, I may pull it up a touch, 50, let's put it at 60. And again, the density is just controlling how strong our effect is. Okay, so I'm painting over her skin here, and I'm not being too careful because I can go back in and clean it up, and that's how I prefer to do it. Even get down here on her hand. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to erase off of where I don't want it. So I'm going to click my mask, and I'm going to come to, actually I need to put a different overlay. We'll do color overlay. Okay, I'm going to use the, you just come down and use the subtract button here and use the brush, and I'm just going to brush over areas that I don't want softened. Her details here. I want to leave her lips a little bit more or less softened there, kind of pop them out a little bit. Okay, now we have her skin done. Now let's do her hair, and it's as simple as grabbing our Painterly hairbrush and brushing over. Oh, so pretty. Really just pops that hair out, makes it look soft and sort of glowy. And you know, these images are sort of, I don't know, they remind me of like fantasy, you know what I mean? I like realism in my photos, and that's what I go for, but I can appreciate this style for, you know, the sort of fantastical qualities. I think it's really pretty. Okay, let's do her shirt. So her shirt is one of the few areas that we have that is color other than the environment. So let's pop that out. I'm going to come to Painterly Pop Color. Just paint over the shirt here. And I might even intensify it a little bit more. If that's not enough color for you as you're painting, just come down to saturation and pull your saturation out. And I'm going to do her jeans too. Again, because this is really the only color we have other than the environment. Okay, now contrast and texture, like I said, is a big thing. So we're going to enhance the texture in her shawl there. So we're going to go painterly, bring back detail, and just quickly paint over. Beautiful. And let's go in with, I'm going to use the brush on golden depth to, again, guys, all we're doing is creating contrast here. So I'm going to create some contrast back here with the golden depth brush by just brushing over these darker areas. You could even, and I'm doing this so you can kind of know the techniques. Anywhere that it's dark, darker, you can brush on some depth. That's just going to pop out your contrast a little bit. You could even come in here, brush these darker areas in the sky. And let's see, I'm going to use a brush and pop out some of my whites. So we'll use painterly pop whites and just brush over the white shawl. Again, this is just creating more contrast. And I'm even going to brush over the highlights in her clothing. Again, we're just creating more depth. And this is how you do it, guys. You just look at your image, everything that you took so much time to shoot and create, you're bringing it all together with your editing. And the last thing I'm going to do is take a radial gradient and create a vignette. So I have a radial and I'm going to use, where is it? Painterly Deep and Darks. I'm going to invert my radial gradient, make sure my feather is up to 100, and I'm just going to draw that over real big, pull it to the center, and if you want, yeah, here, let's see, where's my center? If you make it smaller, it'll be a little bit darker. But yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, that's a beautiful image. I mean, that is a lot of masks, but it didn't honestly take that long. Here, let me show you before and after. So that's just one click with the preset and then some brushwork. And it's, you know, beautiful image. So yeah, guys, that's it. From beginning to end, you know, take control of your wardrobe. Give your clients a color palette. You know, give them a written description of what to add into their wardrobe, like what to do and what not to do. You know, ask them to wear clothes that move. Like this was a brilliant choice with the shawl because she's got movement here. You know, use the color theory when choosing location and wardrobe, complementary colors. You know, you can use different color schemes to get really creative, like, you know, monochrome colors, analogous color schemes, play with that. And then contrast in everything, contrast in light and dark, contrast in texture, and then storytelling. You know, get those emotions out of people. All these elements you're layering, and then you get this final image, and that's it. You really just have to practice it, keep those things in mind, and I think you can do it. I really do. If you guys have any questions about this, any part of it, let me know. I may go ahead and post my couples questionnaire to give you an idea of what I ask, and you can, you know, develop yours from there. But yeah, questionnaires are going to be a huge thing. Please do that. Yeah, that's it. Contrast, questionnaires, emotion, light and dark. These brushes work wonders. You can do this. I promise you, you can do this. Ask me any questions you want. I will answer. And thank you so much for watching. I'm going to link the brushes for you below. Okay, have a good night.